Okay, so we're gonna start to implement the search, and there's a few steps to this, few videos. So first we want to take the form out of the hero and put it into its own component. We want to add the state for the inputs and then handle the submission, which is going to submit to a search results page. And on that search results page, we'll have a use effect that'll call to the API route. And in the API route, we'll search a bunch of different fields for whatever we pass in here. The location, you can also put the, you know, keywords for the name and description and all that, as well as the type of rental. Okay, so let's start off by just taking the search form out of the hero component. So if we go to hero, basically we're just going to cut the form. So we'll go ahead and cut that, and then let's create a new, create a new component in the components folder called property search. We'll call it property search form.jsx, and then RAFCE, and let's get rid of this and place the form in there, save that, and then in the hero we want to bring in, let's say, import property search form, and then we're going to put that right under this div right here, so the div under the paragraph. Put in our property search form, save, and we should see the form. All right, now we can close up the hero, and then in the search form, let's start to add what we need here. So we're going to bring in, first of all, we're going to make it use client, and then we're going to bring in, let's bring in use state, use state, and also use, oh no, we don't need use effect. So use state, and then let's see, what else do we need to do here? There's no icons, correct? No. So for the state, we have two inputs, right? We have location, and I called it location, but technically we're going to be able to put keywords in here as well. So for the placeholder, why don't we say, instead of enter location, and I'll probably change this in the template, in the theme, I'll say enter keywords or location. I think that's a little more specific, but I'll keep it at location for the, for the name. So let's see, we're gonna come up here and say const and location. Since there's only two fields, I'm gonna just put them in their own state rather than having a field state like we did with the big form. So set location, if I can spell the word, use state, and that's going to be just an empty string. Okay, then we have the type, so we'll call this one property type, and then set property type, and I'm going to set that at a default of all. Okay, and then let's see, we're going to go down to, let's see, the input right here, the location field, and we're going to want to add a value and an on-change handler. So let's say value, set that to the location state, and then on-change. So on-change, we'll just have a function, pass in our event, and then set that to set location, and pass in e.target.value. So when we type in the field and it changes, it'll just update the state. And then for the type, we're going to do the same thing. In the select, we're going to add a value and set that to the property type, and then set on change, pass in a function that's going to call set property type, and pass in e.target.value. So in this case, whatever is selected. All right, now when we submit, let's go to form here and let's add an onSubmit handler. And for that, we'll just call this handle submit. And we'll create that here. So let's say const handle submit. Okay, and then let's pass in our event and then prevent the default behavior. So e.prevent default. And then for now, let's just console log the property type and the location. And we'll try that out. So let's open up our browser console. This here, the resource URL is preloaded. Please make sure it's appropriate as value. So that, yeah, that, I don't know, that should be fine. But I'm going to pass something in here. Let's say Boston and studio and search. We get Studio Boston. All right. Now, like I said, the way this is going to work is it's going to basically redirect us to the search results page, which we haven't created yet. And then we're going to have some query params in the URL, the location and the property type. So let's bring in use router so that we can redirect. So we'll say import use router from, it's not next router anymore, it's next navigation. And then we want to initialize that. So let's do that right here. Const router equals use router. Okay, and then in the handle submit, we'll get rid of that. Now, if there's no location or property type is all and there's no location, then I just want to redirect to the properties page. So let's say if the location is equal to nothing and the property type is equal to all, which is the default, then let's take the router and let's push to just /properties. So basically, you'll just get all the properties. Okay, else, then we're going to create a query string. Let's call this query, and we'll use backticks here. And we're going to do question mark location equals location and the property type equals the property type. Okay, and then we just want to redirect, so router, say router.push, and we want to go, let's put backticks in here, we want to go to /properties /search-results, which doesn't exist yet, and then we want to just add on after that the query. So let's save that, and now we'll come back here and let's say Boston Studio search, and you can see where it brings us. Search results, location equals Boston, property type equals studio. Now it says property not found because again we haven't created the search results route, so it's looking at this as an ID, which obviously doesn't exist. Failed to fetch data. So in the next video we'll create our search results page and handle and also create the API that we want to search the data from.